Horoscope, astrological forecast for January 2026 for representatives of the sign Taurus. January 2026 for you is a time of, so to speak, cautious optimism. Cautious, because here there will be a feeling that we are playing on a new field, by new rules that are not fully clear to us. At the same time, there will be a feeling that deep down we knew that everything would develop exactly this way, and that we were somehow preparing for it, but still did not prepare fully, did not prepare 100 out of 100%. January is a unique month. Throughout just one calendar month, 10 new astrological planetary cycles begin at once. And this indicates that there will be a lot of energy. Sitting idly by will not be possible, nor will we want to. Most of the astrological events of January occur in your 9th house of the horoscope, which means in the aspect of luck relative to your sign. Therefore, the turbulent January will become a tailwind for you. And literally from January 3, you will feel that past to-do lists, past action programs, that this is already completed, and it's time to start implementing those plans that you have outlined for yourself for 2026. The stellium of January, that is, the accumulation of planets in one sign, occurs in the sign of Capricorn, in an earth sign friendly to you, which shows the development of trends favorable for you. However, this implies that these trends and opportunities await you beyond current and routine tasks. Therefore, so to speak, hiding in a familiar environment will not work here. January is a month of the new, especially concerning such organizational issues. The energy of January will develop, go on an increasing scale, reaching a peak of culmination in February. Therefore, any signals in the first half of January should be taken seriously, because there will be a development of events. And it is these signals that will indicate what awaits you ahead. The most favorable dates for your sign throughout January are the following: the 15th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. On these days, some planets will give aspects of luck relative to the revolutionary Uranus, which is still in your sign for the final months. And the important and responsible period for your sign is the time from January 23 to 27, because here an aspect from your 10th astro field, the sector of your status, will be forming. Therefore, this is a time when there will be acceleration in many processes important to you. Yes, not everything may go according to plan here. Something may even go contrary to your plans, your expectations. Nevertheless, even if everything does not go as you planned, it will go as you need. This time may bring a change in status, changes in your circle of duties and area of responsibility. Let's discuss in more detail the most important astrological events of the month and their influence on your sign step by step. On January 1, the planet Mercury transits into the space of the sign Capricorn in your 9th house of the horoscope, where it will remain until January 20. Mercury is our thoughts, words, logic, communication, it is documents, and the sign Capricorn is the sign of responsibility, order, and discipline. Therefore, thinking becomes even more rational and concrete here. This is a time when we reflect on and discuss truly important matters. And the main themes here are themes of travel, processing some documents, legal and bureaucratic issues. This is a time when you can gather information necessary for you to take some actions. This is also a time for communication with people from afar. This can be online communication or an opportunity for a meeting. Also, this is a time when you can prepare for some trip, study something, buy tickets, study again some information, or process the necessary documents for the trip. This is what concerns this entire period of Mercury's transit through Capricorn, that is, the period from January 1 to 20. But the day itself, January 1, on this day Mercury will be in a tense aspect relative to the planet Neptune. This can give chaotic thoughts. This is a day when we can receive information that confuses us. This can be information, like a news feed. This can also be information from one of your friends. On January 3, on this day, the first full moon of 2026 occurs. It occurs in the sign of Capricorn in your 3rd house of the horoscope. This full moon closes some road in front of you that is no longer relevant for you. That is, this is a time of completion of some task. Some topic that no longer needs to be discussed is closed. This is a day that gives information, clarity, or the receipt of something you are expecting. This can be an important meeting for you, a letter, a call, receiving a package, or an important decision you will make on this day. It may also be about an issue or a topic that surfaced and became relevant for you at the end of June 2025. This is also a very good day for purchases and for meetings with your relatives, since the sign of Cancer, in which this full moon occurs, is a sign that symbolizes home and family. On January 6, on this day, a conjunction of the Sun and the planet Venus occurs in your 9th house of the horoscope, and the parade of new astrological cycles of 2026 begins. The events, desires, goals, ideas of this day may in one way or another echo what was relevant for you in January 2014, 2018, and early January 2022. And all this may in one way or another be connected with someone or something that is far, far away territorially or far away in time. For example, plans related to people who are far away, or plans for your own move or trip. This can also be the expectation of some event that cannot happen tomorrow, for the development of which time is needed. That is, there may be a feeling of expectation here. And in the period from January 6 to 8, there may be a feeling that we are waiting for something, but in fact, there is nothing to wait for. Yes, here there may be either a feeling that we want something very much, but it is still unknown, unclear what exactly, or maybe a feeling that we want to act, but the time for it has not yet come, that we need to wait, that right now, at this minute, there is no practical opportunity to perform some actions. There may be important events or some news related to a woman who is a special person for you. This is not necessarily your friend. It may even be the opposite. More about the essence and influence of this cycle of Sun and Venus on each of the zodiac signs, I will make a separate video. On January 8, on this day, a magical conjunction of Venus and Mars occurs in your 9th house of the horoscope. This is the second new astrological cycle of the year. Venus symbolizes our desires, needs. Venus is the ruler of your sign. And Mars symbolizes actions. That is, here it is already clear to us what to do, since Venus awakens in Mars the desire and necessity to act. The Venus-Mars cycle is also a cycle of relationships, since Venus symbolizes women and Mars symbolizes men. And here we can talk both about external relationships between persons of the opposite sex and internal ones. That is, each of us has an inner woman and an inner man, and the balance of these forces determines the typical, habitual model of action for us. Do we more often act according to the female model, or still more often according to the male one? And essentially, this day is needed for us to find answers for ourselves to two main questions. The first question: do my desires and needs generate my specific actions? And the second question: how do I behave in relationships? What do relationships mean to me, and what is my habitual model of action in relationships with other people? More about this, I will also tell in a separate video. On January 9, on this day, a conjunction of the Sun and the planet Mars occurs. Also in your 9th house of the horoscope, a 2-year cycle of activity begins. That is, the Sun-Mars cycle is the cycle of our activity, which is set for 2 years ahead. And the beginning of this cycle gives rise to a thirst in us. A thirst for activity, a thirst to do something, to undertake something in response either to external events or in response to internal needs. Usually, when the beginning of such a Sun-Mars cycle occurs, we feel a very acute need for something, an acute deficiency. And we decide to throw all our strength in the near future into solving this particular task. Since this conjunction occurs in the sign of Capricorn, it is important here to act not sharply, not impulsively, but smoothly, systematically, and in stages. Here, not speed is important, but thoroughness. What specific main themes may the beginning of this 2-year Sun-Mars cycle, the cycle of activity, concern for you? First of all, these are issues of learning. These are issues related to preparing the base, relying on which we can change our status. These are issues of moving, arranging housing. These are issues related to learning, education, or acquiring housing for your adult child. More about this, I will also make a separate video. This is an important topic. Specifically, this day lays down for us a 2-year cycle of activity achievements. The Sun, Venus, and Mars will be in a tense aspect in opposition relative to the planet Jupiter. The exact dates of these aspects are January 9 and 10, but we will feel their influence until the middle of the month. What is this aspect about? It is about the tendency to overestimate the significance of some events or habits, some tasks that are like an anchor for you. For example, this can form in you a thought. How can I start playing sports or studying a foreign language or anything at all? How can I do this if I have constant busyness, constant obligations? We need to buy this, go there, control something. That is, these are days when we overestimate the significance of the influence of our habitual actions on our plans. We tend to evaluate habitual affairs as hindrances. And also in this period from January 9 to 15, opportunities may appear here that we are not yet ready for which we prepared but did not fully prepare. If interesting opportunities appear, but you feel that you are not yet fully ready to implement them, then you need to boldly begin. On January 17, on this day, the Sun will be in a favorable aspect relative to the planets Saturn and Uranus. This is such a light and optimistic day when, based on your past developments, you can take an important step. At the very least, on this day, such bold and interesting ideas may appear to you. For example, having built up your client base, you will now feel that you are ready to work independently, work directly with clients, and not through an agency, not through a company with which you previously collaborated. Or on this day, you may feel support from people whom you yourself have helped more than once, and feeling this support, even not in the form of specific actions or words, but simply understanding that if needed, these people will support you. Relying on this support, you can decide on an interesting step for you. This is a day when it is favorable to do what increases our sense of freedom. And on the same day, January 17, the planet Venus, the ruler of your sign and the planet that symbolizes all earthly joys and blessings, transits into the space of the sign Aquarius, into your 10th house of the horoscope, where it will remain until February 10. Venus improves the quality of the space through which it transits. And the 10th astrofield is the sector that symbolizes our status, our reputation, our position on the social and career ladder, and also our interaction with people who are older than us. These include representatives of some state or regulatory authorities. This is our superiors, parents. These are people on whom the state of our affairs depends. Venus brings improvements here. For example, this can be a contract with a client profitable for you, who is also a very pleasant person to communicate with. This can be a favorable resolution of some legal or bureaucratic issue or an issue related to reporting. This is also a time when you can receive some material encouragement, for example, an increase in your salary, an increase in the amount of your social payments, or some bonus or award. Also, during this period, you may receive an invitation to some event. On January 18, on this day, the first new moon of 2026 occurs. It occurs in the sign of Capricorn in your 9th house of the horoscope. The new moon is a new energy impulse. And this is a time, that is, starting from this day, you, if not with caution, then with care, will take on the implementation of some new plan that you have outlined for yourself for 2026. This day is, so to speak, the beginning of the path, a path slow but sure. Especially favorable is the energy of this new moon for processes related to learning, teaching, processes that are related to travel, implementation of your own business, and resolution of legal and bureaucratic issues. On January 20, this is a bright and successful day for your sign. On this day, the planet Mars will give an exact aspect of luck relative to the planet Uranus, which is still in your sign. This day is such a fast and successful one, and we can talk about issues related to travel, documents, changes in your work, in the conditions of your employment, changes for the better. Also, there may be some unexpected plans related to the work of your partner in your personal life. However, on this day, something even more important and global happens. On this day, an exact conjunction of the planet Venus and Pluto occurs in your 10th house of the horoscope. This is again the beginning of a new Venus-Pluto cycle, and this is about changes, about the transformation of the habitual. Venus symbolizes what we love, what we like, and Pluto is the energy of transformation. Here, the conditions of payment for your labor may change, your financial plans may change. There may be changes in affairs that may be related to some important woman for you. And on this day, only the beginning of this Venus-Pluto cycle occurs. And more about the essence and influence of this cycle on our future, I will make a separate video. On January 23, on this day, a conjunction of the Sun and the planet Pluto occurs in your 10th house of the horoscope, in the sector of your status. This day is the beginning of the annual cycle of transformation, since the Sun is our self, our personality, and Pluto is the planet that deals with transformations, changes. The main task of Pluto is to destroy what is not viable, to heal us through difficult plots in our lives. Pluto in your 10th house of the horoscope will be for many more years, and it will change a lot in your affairs. But this happens gradually, and each year at the moment of the Sun-Pluto conjunction, a new task is activated. That is, Pluto touches a new string of our life. And at the moment of the Sun-Pluto conjunction, we, figuratively speaking, receive a signal about what it will be this time. Since this conjunction occurs in your 10th house of the horoscope, which symbolizes our status, first of all, these may be changes related to work, career, with legal documents you possess, with your legal status. These may be issues related to status in your personal life, and also issues that concern moving, either yours or your parents. On this day, it is important to listen to what thoughts arise in you and what external events occur. This way, you will receive a hint about which particular sphere of your life direction Pluto will affect this year. On January 26, on this day, the planet Neptune, the lord of the matter of our souls, changes signs, transits into the space of the sign Aries, into a fire sign. Neptune had already visited this sector for several months in 2025, and now it comes here for its main multi-year visit. Neptune symbolizes our ideals, our faith. It symbolizes the collective unconscious, and so to speak, the average level of psychological comfort of all people on the planet. In the sign of Aries, in a fire sign, Neptune, as the ruler of the sea waters, finds it difficult here. Its pacifying waters and the eternal smoothness of the ocean turn here into a seething stream. And Neptune here is in your 12th house of the horoscope, the house of meanings, the house of immigration, the house of immersion in some business or some process. And this transit of Neptune into your sign will have a rather unusual influence. There will be a number of features, which we will also talk about in a separate video. On January 27, on this day, the most powerful astrological event of this month occurs. An exact conjunction of the planet Mars and Pluto occurs in your 10th house of the horoscope. Mars is our personal strength, and Pluto is collective strength. Mars is the strength that comes from within us, and Pluto is the strength that comes from outside. And on this day, both these forces merge into one, which gives acceleration to many external processes. And on this day, it is important to choose the direction of main efforts in our affairs, to choose, so to speak, our field of battle for the result. Since this conjunction occurs in your 10th house of the horoscope, the house of status, for you these are issues related to everything that affects your status. These are issues of work, career, issues related to place of residence and family position, and also issues of your standard of living in general. That's how, from an astrological point of view, January 2026 will be. Yes, the first month of the new year. It will not let us get bored. This is a time of extreme concentration of energy and strength, and it is important to use this in the right direction for yourself. I wish you a wonderful, successful month, dear Taurus.